I'm Tim Barton from Wall Builders, speaking in favor of the Ten Commandment Bill. And Chairman and all members, thank you for being here and allowing us to be here today. We've heard at this point the legal aspect and the historical aspect, which is obviously the significant barrier that has to be crossed in order for this to happen. I want to add one more component, and that's the moral aspect. If we go back to the original textbook, the New England Primer, printed first in 1690, then printed and used in public schools all the way through the early 1900s, one of the questions students were required to learn at the end of that textbook is, where is the moral law summarily comprehended? And this was the first question leading into the Ten Commandments, is where do we find moral law? The reason this becomes significant is all of us who have paid attention to what's happening in the world and culture today know that our young people are having a very hard time determining what's right and wrong. Where do we find moral law? Is that something subjective? Is it up to each individual to determine right and wrong for themselves? Because there's a level of irony to where we are today that we would tell people it's wrong to kill somebody, and yet we would say it's forbidden to present something that would tell students it is wrong to kill somebody. The very foundation of moral law for all of the Western world, for the morals of civilization, have been derived from the Ten Commandments. If we go back to the idea, one of the arguments we've heard in recent weeks is one of the leading causes of death among teenagers, among children, as the argument goes, is guns. Well, again, there's a level of irony if we're saying that we're seeing a rise in violent crime when it comes to inner cities, when it comes to gang violence, when we are seeing teenagers kill other teenagers, something that not only is illegal, not only can you go to jail for, there's a death penalty that can be ascribed for someone that kills in these situations, and yet, again, we are saying that we're not going to tell students a foundation of morals is we should not kill people. If we look at the Ten Commandments, the basis of the idea, why do we believe it's wrong to steal? Why do we believe, even here, it's wrong to lie under oath? The foundation of morality comes from the Ten Commandments. And as we are looking at a civilization, no society, no civilization can exist and can continue if there's not a moral foundation. The Founding Fathers very well understood when John Adams says that our Constitution was made only for a moral and a religious people, it is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. He understood that freedom only works if there's a moral foundation, because if you give freedom to immoral people, all they do is immoral things. You have to have a level of morality for freedom to maintain, and there's no better standard that's ever been given for a basis of morality than the Ten Commandments. Not only are the Ten Commandments now legally allowed to be displayed for students, not only is there a historic precedent for them to be displayed to students, but there is a moral component that if we are expecting to remain a free society and for students to understand what is right and wrong and to refrain from killing and stealing or even lying under oath as the case might be, we need to return the Ten Commandments to students in front of them in their schools so there's a basis for that morality. And there might be some that would say, wait a second, but we know there's a separation of church and state or whatever the argument might be. And all that really would expose is that they really don't understand the history of even those very statements. If you go back and read Thomas Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptist, where he was explaining the government cannot limit your religious expression because there's a separation that keeps the government away from religion. The idea was never to secularize the government, which is why the Founding Fathers themselves did prayer proclamations, whether they were governors, whether they were presidents, or even from the Continental Congress. They were not secular individuals. They just didn't want the government controlling religion, but this is not an argument to control religion. This is an argument to uphold a standard of morality that students need to be able to govern their lives and to live as members in a free society. Thank you for letting me share.